Hi everyone, welcome to the video. Today I'm going to go over how I set up my monthly spread in my 2020 bullet journal. Before we get started, I went ahead and prepared all the hand lettering of titles that I'll be using this month. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I'm always hesitant to write directly in my bullet journal with the potential that I might mess it up. The first page I start with is the cover of the month. At the beginning of this year, I decided to theme my bullet journal based on birthstones. So I've selected this red image to glue in as my background because July's birthstone is ruby. I found the image on Unsplash. The link is in the description below. If you're ever looking for royalty-free images to use, I find Unsplash is a great resource. All of the images that I've used throughout my bullet journal have been selected from their site because I find they have so many beautiful photos to choose from. Once the background was all glued in and the edges were trimmed, I added my July title on top of some ripped construction paper. On the other side of the page, I've decided to fill up the space by showing off this month's birthstone with some hand lettering and crystals that I've drawn out. Whenever I'm gluing something into my bullet journal, I'll usually glue on top of a scrap piece of paper just to ensure that I've covered the entire surface area with the tape glue. And the last thing that I'm going to add onto this page is a single strip of washi tape that I'm going to be using for the month of July. Next is July's calendar. I start with blocking in the dates by drawing out the corners for each square. I'm using a friction pen. They're one of my favorite types of pens to use because I can easily erase any mistake that I make. Once I have the calendar all laid out, I wrote out the days of the week. You'll often see me working from the right side of the page over to the left just because I'm left-handed and I have a tendency to smudge ink. Following the theme of July's birthstone being ruby, I drew out some gems ahead of time in pencil along the top of the page. I'm now filling in the gems using a colored pencil in various shades of red, orange, and pink. Now I'm outlining the gems using a Tombow Mono Twin pen. The last thing I added to the gems was a white highlight. I intended on using my size 8 Sakura Jelly Roll pen, but unfortunately it wasn't working at the time, so I quickly switched to my size 10. Realized that it was way too thick for the highlight, so I settled on my size 5. The only thing with that is the size 5 is really thin, so I found myself having to go back on top of the white multiple times in order for it to show up. With all the drawing and coloring complete, I glued in the July title, then filled up the rest of the space by adding a piece of ripped up black paper, gluing it in at the bottom, as well as taking the same image from the cover page, cutting a zigzag pattern into it, and gluing it in on the left side of the page. As always, for the final step, I added some washi tape along the sides of the page, and then to give the black at the bottom a little bit more detail, I added some small little stars and dots. The last page I'll be working on is my weekly spread. This is probably my favorite section of my bullet journal because I use it daily. I start with tape gluing in the same image from the cover on the left side of the page, then drawing out a box for each day of the week using my friction pen. The final box is slightly larger than the rest because I use it to track my habits. I left some space on the right side of the page just because I'll be adding a mini calendar and a to-do list. I added a single line of color to each section that I will be placing a title. The first two boxes I colored gray with a Tombow dual brush pen N55, and the rest of the titles I used a reddy pink color, which was the Tombow dual brush pen 755. The reason the first two boxes are colored gray are because they're the final 2 days of June. June's birthstone was pearl, so I wanted to incorporate that gray color onto this page. Now using a Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen with a hard tip, I wrote out the titles for each box. At the beginning of the year, I decided I wanted to keep my bullet journal simple, and I did so by eliminating a monthly habit tracking page and opted to track my habits weekly instead. I personally enjoy this method more because I often found myself forgetting to keep my habit tracker up to date when it was sitting on a separate page. Finishing off this section, I added the July title and a few pieces of washi tape. And with that, my July spread is complete. All the materials that I used are in the description box below. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and be sure to subscribe if you're interested in seeing more bullet journaling content from me in the future. Thank you so much for watching.